Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back again to the IFAMA 2020 Goes Digital show. I'm sitting here again with Barry Marttin from Rabobank. And this time we'll talk about the Green Deal. The Green Deal in Europe, the project by Ursula von der Leyen and my fellow countryman, Frans Timmermans, the EU Commissioner, is obviously going to be used in order to create this greener, nature inclusive, but as Barry calls it, we need to do the right nature costing. So it's a way in agriculture to do the right nature costing and create the right farming system and food value system, food value chain. Now, Barry, the question that burns on my lips is, how do you as a banker look at the kind of money that is around? There is 1 billion euros around. It's not all for agriculture, but a large part of it is. Do you think that money is going to be put to good use? You described to us that you would like to have a set of criteria that do nature costing. It's about CO2, it's about biodiversity, nitrogen, soils, about the right delivery systems, access to all kinds of logistics, making the system work as it should from a nature point of view. Do you think the criteria are there in order to put that kind of money to good use?
Well, you're giving a very big question, right? So, but I always go back to the basic of the basic, right? So the basic is we need to double food production and reduce the footprint from 12 gigatons to most probably 0. So that's the basic of the basic, right? So in my view, there's a lot of things that we will need to go in that transition. So why the Green Deal is so important? Because if we get the criteria right, we have funds available to make it going. But in my view, we as society have to sit down with Brussels, with Mr. Timmermans, which is a very smart and very good man, with the right thing, he was doing the right thing, to get that criteria very well. Because it would be a shame if this time we don't have it, we do something and then suddenly 10 years down the road we say, that was not the right thing to do. Or actually in the farming practices, we cannot do that. I think that's one of the things that we should be very aware of. So,
but we still need to sit down. The criteria aren't there yet.
In my view, is the following. I'm a very truly believer is that we have to support the right nutrition. And we have to continue to support the efficient nutrition. So the ones that produce, let's say, the nutrients that we produce with the lowest impact. And then you go to, of course, you not only that, but then you have to look at what is the diet that we would be looking at, and then to that efficient nutrition, the diet we are looking at, what is the best value chain to get that done, and what is the best production method, and how can we support? Most probably Europe is going to be important to get that value chain properly organized, so that we can produce those nutrients. So that's why I think we have to get the criteria right. Too many times I hear the following, this has a low CO2 emission. Is that per calories? Is that per grams? Or what is it? Right?
You need to relate it to nutrients.
I think we have to relate it to nutrients, right? So if you're going to drink a milk which is made from, let's say, nuts, most probably it's going to be there will be nutrition, but do we really know how much water was there used? What are the criteria? So we have to...
You would prefer milk?
Or I think milk is a very efficient. I think the history shows that milk, if I'm not mistaken, milk has 9 of the most efficient, the good nutrients in there. So, and that's why when people say, I'm against milk, I don't know if I'm against milk, because compared to what? Right, because of the nutrient value, nutritional value of milk.
But this nutrient accounting, I know of no NGO who's advocating that, and not even of academics doing it.
Yeah, but at the end, in my view, if the scarce, you have to look at what gives you the best buck for your scarce resource. I'm a banker, right? So I'm thinking about what's my return of the scarce resource, right? So if water is my scarce resource, and I pay 100 units for a liter of water, I'm going to maximize. I will try to maximize my return over that water if that's my scarce resource. If my scarce resource is going to be greenhouse emissions, I want to maximize. And if suddenly it's zero, I cannot emit anything. I'm going to try to make something that doesn't emit, right? Or I have to make deals. So I think that the Green Deal would be very important for us to have as an industry, sit down. Okay, what do you really want to achieve? If we want to achieve from an agriculture point of view, neutral Europe, then you really have to go to the drawing board and say, okay, what are we talking about, right? So then you already start thinking about, to get a neutral Europe, you will have to start putting more carbon in the soil, in the farms, right? So that at the end you balance that, and I think that's what as a banker, what you really have to if money is the scarce resource, then you're going to try to maximize the return of the money. If water is a scarce resource, you're going to do that. If all of them are the scarce resource, you're going to,
which is the case,
you're going to try to balance all the three. So in my view, if I'm as a farmer and the business case which I'm building up and which I have to finance the farmer with this business case, you need to have the criteria pretty right what you want so that we can do the proper financing of those business cases. And if a business case needs time, needs, and that's where the Green Deal is going to be important, is to allow us to make those business cases work for the long run. But in my view, that's what I'm looking at. Mm-hmm. It's pretty simple, right? But
it's pretty simple. I can understand it because I do the same kind of accounting. But you need to get there. Various NGOs have various opinions, and the wind is rather, l'air du temps is rather vegetarian. Yeah. There is Lancet, Eat Lancet, which is a vegetarian program. You could be easily on that one. In the Netherlands, we've got Professor Imke de Boer, who says the animal is important in the value chain.
In the circularity of in the waste, right?
Exactly, for circularity. The frames have been set in a way that we cannot accept that anymore. So you need to do a bit of, you need to clean the right ideas from the wrong ideas. And that is something we need to sit down for, if I get you right.
Well, I think the Netherlands is the country that has shown the way, I think, for the world. I think I remember my parents that immigrated to Brazil in the 50s, but they always told me that they had some difficulties after the war. I mean, it was not easy in the Netherlands.
Your parents are Dutch. They went over to Brazil.
Yes.
What did they do? They were farmers.
My mother was a daughter of two farming families, but they were in the potato trade because the families, they would grow the potatoes and the father was trading it.
And where did they live? In the north
in the
or
south?
In the
because
south?
they would bring the potatoes from the north to the south at that time. That was his business, from the family. So the way I understand it, and I think more and more we say that the golden triangle, right? So you really need that conversation between the business and the farmers, the academia, which is Wageningen, and we have very good research institute also in all over Europe, right? Not only in of course we have the number one in the world, and obviously the government. We have to sit together to make the Green Deal is only going to work if those three come together and show the way, right? And the Netherlands has shown in the past, after the war, that you can come and sit together and get the criteria right? And they have done it, and it has been extremely successful. I think the Holland, of course, we have to re-look at it, considering all the environmental issues we're having in the Netherlands. But until the Netherlands, from a food production point of view, has been a successful country. So by means of coming together, I think we really have to sit together in this new, what they call the golden triangle. Maybe we have to expand the triangle and have also NGOs in there. But it's that coming together and getting this common understanding, which is very important, as the world did in Paris. It was very difficult to get the SDGs in Paris agreed, but we did come together, and NGOs and everybody are also supporting this SDGs. It was a difficult process, but we need to have almost a Paris for food, if you understand, where we come together, and we have this agreement. Yeah.
So that's a nice one. We need a Paris for food.
Yeah.
In order to spend the Green Deal money,
to agree what is right, where we want to go.
Right. And then you said in just a little phrase, perhaps we should invite the NGOs.
Yeah, because
not just business, but perhaps invite them.
Yeah, the perhaps is maybe not the right words, because if you look at when the Holland did the
But Barry, I think you're right, because the frames are against you. So you need to talk about the frames, what is true and what is not true. We're not talking about facts anymore. We're talking about ideas in frames. So indeed, we need to talk about something. And I think even, well, from my point of view, I was trained as a philosopher, you need to engage voters as well, because the ideas from NGOs are all over the place. So even if the NGOs shift, voters will say, hey, what you're shifting. Is meat okay now? So there is even an intellectual transition needed.
I think you do make a good point. So I have to tell you one thing. I think Rabobank became better when we started to engage with NGOs as an organization, because we brought outside-in views about how could you do better. So I'm a full supporter of having actually, maybe perhaps was not the right word, but I think the reason is because we had the triangle where the NGOs were not in there, but I think you have to bring them into the conversation, because they are also a reflection of society. And food is such a cultural thing, right? And such an emotional thing that you need to bring society in the discussion. If you only do it through science, it's not also going to work. So you need to bring in it. So in my view, having this, I call it now triangle, now actually having quadrilateral of having this discussion. I mean, French, they will not let go their cheese or their baguette, because there is a cultural thing to it. So you have to take that into consideration. Like Brazilians are not going to let their meat go, their barbecue go. I mean, it's just part of my culture.
Yeah. So you need to bring the NGOs in, and I said, well, where do we leave these people we call people around? Would it be a good idea to involve supermarket customers? Everyone goes to a supermarket.
That's the business, I consider, right? So the business, the farm, the business, the academia. I think that's the golden triangle, right? So, the politicians, and I think society then represented by NGO or what we would. But you have to have society represented there, because I think food is such a specific thing.
But what I was pressing was the idea: bring in the customers of supermarkets. They have a say as well. You could try to have supermarkets as a communications channel in order to sit down together.
Oh yes, I think at least at supermarkets also you can quickly test things that work and don't work, and that's pretty much. And you see that certain things do work and certain things don't work, right? So yeah.
So to sum up, because you've said it, and I like that a lot. We need a Paris for food, and that would be your advice for Mr. Timmermans, in order to put the Green Deal money to good use.
To smart use, yes.
To smart use. What is the difference for good use and smart use?
Because I think that even what he's put on is not enough for the transition, right? So we need to see what are the ones that have the biggest impact so that we can do that.
Okay. Barry, thank you very much for this conversation and advice to Mr. Frans Timmermans.
Thank you.